In 2006, Google Sheets was launched, an application with the novel capability for investors to model and share their work beyond desktop environments. Fast forward to 2025, Google came out with Gemini 3.0, an AI that is on the precipice of changing investing as we know it. Hi, my name is Nandini Sharma. I'm from New Jersey, and I can't wait to share my work with you all today. All right, so the main objectives that grounded my research were these three essential questions. One, how can AI streamline investor workflows? So, really valuing efficiency. Two, how can AI do this in the most accurate way? So, again, supplementing efficiency with accuracy. And lastly, how can AI augment investor knowledge? So, not just provide generic responses, but tailor its information to the level of knowledge that an industry professional already has. All right, so I chose biotech because investing itself is a multidisciplinary field. So when the added knowledge of medical and scientific breakthroughs becomes a prerequisite to analyzing these stocks, it can pose a significant challenge. And I picked public equity because companies are required to disclose their financial information to the public, and this creates a rich database that's easily accessible for the AI to use, mitigating hallucinations. So the first step in my research process was the research brief, in which I looked from a broad scope at what the AI claims to do and some different variables. So first, I looked at what Gemini claims. It claims a multimodal capability, so the ability to manipulate and produce outputs from various modalities such as PDFs, videos, audio, and photos. It also has a deep think mode, which, as shown by this bar graph, is a leader in reasoning knowledge, scientific knowledge, and visual reasoning as well, compared to the previous models. It also has an agentic workflow, so it's able to provide an output with minimal human oversight and has a high level of autonomy. And with Gemini 3.0 Pro, you can receive coding support. So with a simple prompt, you can receive these different coded modules that can help for the investor, whether it be financial modeling or something of that sort. It's also a superior long-term planner and a leader in STEM, as shown by its higher scores on these various benchmark exams compared to its competitors such as Claude and ChatGPT. So the question I posed for the research brief was, will Gemini produce more accurate synthesis and claims with a simple or detailed prompt? I focused on biotech investment research and comparing this detailed versus simple prompt with different inputs such as annual and quarterly PDFs, long reports, and structuring my prompt as a thesis level prompt. And I also evaluated these outputs for accuracy and usefulness. So here's an example of a very basic one sentence prompt asking the AI to provide some stocks that will do good in the next year. And compared to that, a much more detailed prompt where I asked the AI to take the role of an equity analyst at a buy-side firm. All right, so what were the results? So the strengths of the AI were that it had a strong synopsis of documents, so it was able to read these very long and dense multi-page documents and provide an accurate synthesis. It also had strong analysis backed with relevant reasoning, such as here, it mentions the red flags of a certain company I was asking about, and it does analyze accurate aspects of the company, but a main weakness was that it hallucinated numbers to support these accurate claims. And after hallucinating, it backed it up with an overconfident tone for its observations. So if an analyst is, say, having a several-hour work week, comes back and is looking at the AI's response, the overconfident tone is likely to sway their thoughts, even if the information might not be true. So with this broad scope, I was able to narrow down my question and go on to the experimental investigation. My research question was, how does prompt specificity influence Gemini's accuracy, depth, and reliability when analyzing a public biotech company's quarterly filing? And my hypothesis was in two folds. One, that a structured prompt would improve depth and usefulness of information to the investor, but two, that prompts that required a certain aspect of verification of the evidence being used would have even more accurate and reliable outputs. So my methodology was to keep the independent variables as prompt specificity and constraint level, and I had 4 different types of prompts. One, a very minimal request, which using this quarterly form just asks to analyze the company. 2, using the role of a buy-side equity analyst and using only the information uploaded from the PDF. 3, using a structured approach as of the one in prompt B, and also asking for citations. So asking to kind of indicate where each piece of information came from. And then prompt D involved everything with structure, citations, and a verification table. So a table that has what claims are being made and where that's being verified from. All right, so I chose the quarterly form of Dyne Therapeutics, and the reason I picked Dyne is because it's a pre-revenue biotech company with a focused neuromuscular pipeline, and it has a high volatility in terms of stock prices, so it's ideal to test AI's analysis abilities. Here you can see that it grew exponentially from November to December of 2025, which was actually, I did some research and found out due to breakthrough therapy designation from the FDA, just showing again how volatile biotech stocks can be. So my controls and variables tested, my constant was the Dyne Therapeutics 10Q form from Q3 of 2025. And the metrics that I tested, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, were accuracy, depth, usefulness, evidence quality, and hallucination control. What were the results? All right. So a more structured prompt provided greater depth and usefulness as seen in B and C, where it shows how the depth and usefulness were at a 4. Role framing, which was done in prompt B, did improve relevance of information, but not necessarily accuracy, as you can see from the low scores in evidence quality and hallucination control. Additionally, citations alone did not prevent hallucinations, as shown by kind of an outlier, this dip in evidence quality in prompt C. Also, verification requirement produced the largest improvement. So when verification was used, there were 5s and 4s across all categories. And that was prompt D, which scored the highest again. And again, more confident responses were not the most reliable. So what are the implications of these results? So AI performance is highly prompt dependent, which is shown by the different prompt structures that I inputted. And confidence is not necessarily equal correctness, so a certain level of professional skepticism is always going to be necessary. A structured prompt, like my hypothesis, improved clarity, but the ability to have verification enabled this certain level of accuracy needed when completing real-world investments. And AI should be used as a research assistant, not a decision maker, as shown by the very overconfident claims that it can tend to make and the cohesive narrative that it can try and paint. So Gemini has a tendency of cherry picking certain information to provide a clear-cut answer when that's not always the right move. All right, so how can Gemini 3.0 become better suited for investors? So they could definitely venture out and add a verification mode, which asks the AI to label fact, inference, not found, and really categorize where information is coming from. It should include citations for every claim, so nothing is kind of just out of the blue and hallucinated, but grounded in real, accurate research. And it should prioritize accuracy over the tendency of creating this like cohesive narrative and trying to be as fluent as possible. While the trade-off would be that it would be a little bit slower because it would have to cross-check its responses from 10 to 15 different sources, and that could take a lot longer than just like a few seconds. It would be much safer to use when real money is on the line. And how will WIF implement this in our Spring portfolio? So we can pick specific stocks and filings, PDFs, as Gemini succeeds highly with the PDF modality. And we can run prompt D templates with the twofold of structure and verification. We can have our team cross-check numbers that the AI produces because it has a tendency to hallucinate these numbers and then back it up with confidence. And AI will be the draft of whatever we're asking it to do, but in the end, humans have to decide. And most importantly, we should keep a shared prompt library because not only does the AI succeed better when it has a higher detail level of detail for the prompt, but it would be better if we had uniform testing across the whole team. So they were using the same level of specificity and aspects in their prompt. So my key takeaways from this is that AI is best used as a research assistant and not an investor, and output quality depends highly on prompt design. Additionally, verification is very essential for investment use. Otherwise, the AI has a tendency to have somewhat relevant information, but not necessarily accurate. And confidence, again, can occur a lot of the time, but it doesn't always equal a true and accurate response. And understanding its limits makes the AI more powerful. As Google's CEO put it, the future of AI is not about replacing humans, it's about augmenting human capabilities. Thank you. So, when I was testing the prompts, what I noticed most interesting to me was that when more for prompt B and C, when there was a higher level of structure, it improved its accuracy, it improved its like depth and usefulness overall, but it didn't improve its evidence quality or hallucination control. It actually tended to hallucinate numbers to back up what it was trying to say, and it had a low level of evidence quality due to this. But what I did notice is that when combining all of these aspects into prompt D, where it asked for where it like kind of harnessed the strengths of each different prompt, it was able to kind of succeed and mitigate these challenges that it was facing otherwise. So I guess I kind of, to sum it up, I noticed that like when only individual parts were being used, the AI had certain strengths, but also very obvious weaknesses. But when combining it all, it kind of evened out and provided a good overview. Yeah, I definitely think that that would help. So that's why I kind of suggested having prompt D or like this combination of structure and verification being used throughout the team and having a shared prompt library so that you can kind of understand what your peers are doing and like match up to that. And I think that's really important because it provides like aspects that can cover all of the different challenges that the AI was facing. So like if it was hallucinating, it could be taken care of from the verification. If it wasn't providing relevant reasoning, it could be taken care of by the structure of the prompt. So I think not only does that make using AI a lot easier for investors because it tackles these challenges, but it also makes it so that like there's less outliers in the data.